Ave Maris Stella.
Hello and welcome back to Vatican II in a Year. This is your host, Father Matthew Schneider. I am a priest of the Legions of Christ, and I teach theology. This is a podcast on the StarCrest Production Network at sqpn.com. Today we're on day 133, and we're covering Christus Dominus 27 on the Diocesan Curia and Committees. If you want to follow along, we have a reading plan and more details at sqpn.com/Vatican or frmatthewlc.com/Vatican. Yesterday, we talked about the roles of the auxiliary and coadjutor bishops of the diocese. There can only be one coadjutor, but the auxiliaries and coadjutor. Now we're going to continue with Chapter 2 today, bishops in the particular church of their diocese. Section 2.3, assistance in the pastoral office of diocesan bishops. And we're going to cover all of 2.3.2, the subsection on the diocesan curia and commissions. And really, this paragraph has 5 subparagraphs, and each deal with an important different role within the diocesan curia. Diocesan curia here just means like diocesan offices. You know, most of us in the Western world, they'll just call it the diocesan offices. You know, where they have like the kind of business side of the diocese running out of. So that's the Latin name curia is similar to that. We just generally in less formal parlance, we call it the diocesan offices in English. But formally it's the diocesan curia. So anyway, paragraph 27, as I noted, had 5 subparagraphs, A, B, C, D, and E. A is on the vicar general, B is on the councils of priests, C and D are on the curia. C, it helps them, and D, it's not an end in itself, but it's for the diocese for ministry. And then E, pastoral councils are a good thing, and generally should be had, but are not required. Anyway, so let's read 27A. The most important office in the diocesan curia is that of the vicar general. However, as often as the proper government of the diocese requires it, one or more episcopal vicars can be named by the bishop. These automatically enjoy the same authority which the common law grants the vicar general, but only for a certain part of the diocese or for a determined type of transaction or for the faithful of a determined rite. So, right, this is what we talked about when we talked about the auxiliary bishops and the different roles they're given. Sometimes they're the vicar general, so number 2 in the diocese, which is a formalized role, and like the vicar general is the one who takes over if the bishop's sick or absent, or if the bishop dies. You know, he's the one who has to inform the pope, hey, the bishop died, you're going to need to name a new bishop here, and things like that. And he runs the diocese when the bishop's not there, right? So as we noted in there, they can have episcopal vicars. Big dioceses like Chicago and LA do this, where different auxiliary bishops run different subsections of the diocese. Like this bishop runs the north section, this bishop runs the east section of, the diocesan boundaries and things like that. And that's just how the dioceses tend to run. That can be very helpful. So hopefully that's helpful. Now moving on to paragraph 27b, talking about the councils of priests. So here, let's read it. Among the collaborators of the bishop in the governance of the diocese are numbered those presbyters. Remember, just presbyters just means priests. Okay, going back. Those presbyters who constitute his senate or council, such as the cathedral chapter, the board of consultors, or other committees, according to the circumstance and nature of various localities. These institutions, especially the cathedral chapter, should be reorganized, however necessary, and keep with present-day needs. Right? So this is important. There's in English, we usually call it the presbyteral council. A bunch of the important priests in the diocese, so the bishop can get a consultation. Hey, I'm thinking about doing this. And it's very helpful to have that kind of consultation, because I don't know how many times in your life, but you put forward a plan and you tell a few people and they give you advice that actually improves your plan, right? And the bishop's not going to be, just because he's named a bishop doesn't mean he just knows everything. And having that kind of committee or board or council he can consult with can be very helpful, right? And priests should take this seriously, right? This should not just be kind of like a formality, just there at presbyteral council and not really look at it, right? But they should take this seriously to say, hey, does this seem like the best thing for the diocese to do X or Y to close this school, etc., right? Those are the kind of things that really, it's very helpful to have that. How are we going to merge these parishes? Well, different dioceses do it differently, but some kind of consultation, whether it's just the presbyteral council or whether it's, with the actual parishes, is important, right? And so hopefully that's helpful. Now, C is going to talk about how the curia, or the diocesan office, those in the diocesan offices, helps the bishop. The curia refers more to the people, I guess, and the diocesan officers refers more to the place as I think about this. But anyway, so let's read C. Priests and lay people who belong to the diocesan curia should realize that they are making a helpful contribution to the pastoral ministry of the bishop. That's it, right? It needs to be important. The priests who are there, a judicial vicar who takes care of all the canon law stuff and all the annulments, or the vicar general, or the one who takes care of all the paperwork to make sure that like all our, child protection norms are being followed, and everybody's like, we're making our very best effort to, protect children from, sexual abuse and things like that. Those are important, right? And the bishop can't do that all on its own. And we don't want a lone wolf bishop. We want a bishop who works with and collaborates with a whole bunch of people, both priests and lay people, right? So there's certain roles which often are priests, like the vicar general, I think, has to be a priest. And then some of them, like chancellor, can be priests or lay people or religious. And most of the other roles can be, priests or not priests in general, and things like that. And that's important. Now, moving on to D, it's talking about how the curia is for the apostolate, for ministry, not an end in itself. Let's read it. The diocesan curia should be so organized that it is an appropriate instrument for the bishop, not only for administering the diocese, but also for carrying out the works of apostolate. Right? So structure in the church do not exist for themselves. They exist for saving souls, right? All these kind of structures, all these things we make, because it's ecclesiastical law. It's divine law that we have a bishop, right? And the bishop has over a certain area, right? But the exact boundaries of diocese, the exact organization that the church puts in for diocesan curia is ecclesiastical law. It's law that can be changed. But the point of that is to help save souls, to bring about a better administration of the diocese, bring about more apostles, bring more people to know, love, and serve Jesus, right? And so that's the idea, right? And so we have to remember the end here is not an end in itself, because sometimes I think structure in the church, we can get too caught up and make them almost an end in themselves when they aren't. The structure is meant to save souls. It's not meant to, for its own survival or for building up a bigger diocesan curia. No, that's not the point of it. So anyways, let's move on to the last one, 27E on pastoral councils. It is greatly desired that in each diocese, a pastoral commission will be established over which the diocesan bishop himself will preside, and which specially chosen clergy, religious, and lay people will participate. The duty of this commission will be to investigate and weigh pastoral undertakings and to formulate practical conclusions regarding them. Right? So this is this idea of true synodality, right? Synodality is this idea that the bishop is just there, I'm going to be all authority, but I'm going to consult, I'm going to check, I'm going to work and try and work in a consultative manner. I'm going to have a synod, right? And so this can be a commission. I know in the Archdiocese of Detroit, Archbishop Vigneron, he had a whole individual synod on evangelization, and they put forward a plan and things like that, right? So that's the idea of true synodality, working with them, trying to find the best for the church on those practical matters, right? And so that is important because we, who are individuals, we aren't bishops, but we shouldn't just say, hey, bishop, do whatever, and we're not going to help you out. We're not going to help, because we can help the bishop by our consultation. So hopefully that's all helpful. Thank you for listening to this episode of Vatican II in a Year. This is a listener-supported podcast, and you can donate to help StarQuest produce it and other great podcasts at sqpn.com. You can give one-time, monthly, or join the StarQuest Patreon. Tomorrow we're going to continue with the next paragraphs from Christus Dominus 28 and 29 on priests of the diocese. Please join us then to learn more about Vatican II, which will provide a blueprint for the Catholic Church. Go to sqpn.com/Vatican, frmatthewlc.com/Vatican, or Vatican SQPN on Facebook and X for more information on the podcast, such as playlists and individual documents and a reading plan.
Amen.